Hello everyone and welcome to the webinar. I am Mustafa Bislimi from Professional Evaluation and Certification Board. Today's webinar will be hosted by PECB partner and certified trainer engineer Tawfik Soukieh, who will talk about the standard ISO 29001 oil and gas on awareness webinar. You can submit questions and comments through the presentation by using the chat function in the right control panel, and we will be answering them accordingly. Please, Tawfik, you can start the presentation.
Morning, this is Engineer Tawfik. Thank you for being with us on such a beautiful morning. Taman, I have to warn you because today the temperature in Kuwait is 49 Celsius, which means we are burning. But nevertheless, we will have a good session talking about our ISO 29000 standard. Taman, today we're going to present to you what we call the petroleum, petrochemical, and natural gas industry sector-specific quality management system. And that standard is ISO 29000. Okay. I apologize, I'm having some commotion in the voice, so if you stay with us, if you have any problem with the voice, it will correct itself by itself. Now, we'll make this seminar or webinar easy and to the point. I'll take your questions and answers at the end, and I'll try to be direct, and I'll give you some life experiences of my last 20 years experiences in the oil sector. So when I had the pleasure of working in the oil sector in Kuwait, and I did it in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Oman, Yemen, Algeria, and probably Egypt, but Egypt wasn't like a very specific detail. They were shipping companies that I did audit on. This was trying to the point. So today we'll act on how can you use ISO 29001 in the oil sector. What are the specific and how can we implement it? So today I want to start by thanking our partner PECB, a partner with Global Experience Consulting Company, for giving us a chance to present to you our finding, experience, knowledge, and how can we do it better. All right. Good, let's start since everything is positive, and I hope you have a clear communication all the way during the whole webinar with us. So we're going to talk about today transport, telecommunication, energy. We're going to talk about how to implement the standard. This is the content. Don't worry about the content. It looks very what we call full, but it's going to be simple and to the point. We'll talk about the sector-specific quality management system, ISO 29001, issue 2010. Talk about the benefit, the goals, the application, the conformance, the requirement, implementation, developing a project milestone, time scale, and then we'll talk about the evaluation process of the whole QMS system. I'll give you some insights how you can use ISO 29001 in your quality management system, especially since we are talking about the oil sector. And here we say the oil sector specific. It's not only the oil sector, but we're talking about oil, gas, and petrochemical, including coal. Okay, we're covering all these. Now, first of all, what is ISO 29001? And you see the term TS. After the ISO, there's a slash, TS. TH means technical standard. It is, and it's specific for oil, gas, and petrochemical industries. It can function as a standalone certification. You can go and request the ISO certification body to certify for ISO 29001, but the international practice is it should be incorporated with ISO 9001. Now, my 25 years experience back in the oil sector teaches me that the best practice for applying ISO TS 29001 is through applying it with ISO 9001. What does it mean? It means first you get certified for ISO 9001, you become very professional in the implementation, where you know all your requirement and you apply and you comply with the standard in full. Then you can ask the certification body to come and audit you on ISO TS 29001, and all the certification body has to do is come and audit the stuff that you added to ISO 9001. And this is what we mean. It can be incorporated with ISO 9001, the Generic Quality Management System certification for industries worldwide. And they will not audit the whole system again if you have ISO 9001. They will audit the specific industrial controls, procedures, manuals you put to comply with 29001. And this is called what we call a derivative audit, where they do the first audit and then they do only what was missing from ISO 9001. And this is your best call. And I'm recommending to all companies in the oil sector, if you want to apply 29001 2010, issue year 2010, please hit first the ISO 9001, become professional in the implementation of the quality management system, and then you can move to 29001 and you can make the audit what we call specific target to the requirement not covered in the first audit in ISO 9000. Business challenges. I wrote so many things, but I want to change all this outlook. I want to talk about today's oil, gas, and petrochemical prices. You've seen what's happening. You've seen the prices. You've seen the challenges. You've seen the nature of this business. There are, and the people especially who work in the oil sector, oil and gas and petrochemical, they know that they are exposed to catastrophic risks. These risks drive their business. It is a main issue. It takes one disaster to stop the whole business from operating, and we learned a lot from what happened to PB. I attended what we call the court session on PB when they had the major spill in the Gulf of Mexico. And if not mistaken, it was 2010. I'm getting old, by the way. I'm starting to forget dates. I remember maybe 2010, 2011, and we saw what one major spill, one major error led to that business to be in the jeopardy of closing down. The U.S. wanted to differentiate what we call measure to stop PB from working worldwide. PB did the right thing. They closed the matter. They did what they were obliged, but it cost them billions of dollars. So you are dealing with a business where there is hazardous liquid gases which are mistreated or improperly managed. And it takes one simple mistake to a national we know what happened in India. We call the old company, all these companies who were with U.S. and Dow Chemical took over, and their national disaster in India. It took one simple mistake to become into a national disaster and stop from these organizations sustaining the business. Now, the industry is at least minimum. We do have people who give global for 829 to have I think this is a main part or address in any business. I think Peter Drucker said it best. He said, today, the main the main aim of any business in the world is not maximizing profit. It's the avoidance of loss and very sad, and you forget all the that around you, the law, all these hinder into driving any sense or any organization running in the so way to reach the excellence of the stakeholder ISO 01 certification as stopped by ISO 9001. So an ISO technical standard 29001 defines quality management system requirement, and this is we declare the scope of this standard. It's design. If you're designing your equipment, if you're designing your processes, development means digging and getting the oil out. Production, installation, and services of the petroleum and natural gas industry. Developed as a direct result of partly was this system they do 9001 2008 number 176 headed by our friend Mr. Nigel Croft. Now this standard, since it was implemented and successfully used in one of many organizations around the world, AP, American Petroleum Institute, they said we have in our standard Q1 measurement system 1, we can go ahead and work with the oil, gas, industry. And so they developed the committee TC67. TC67 is the one for the I-2901. The I-29 committee 6, I was born on that year, so that's my date of birth. So it was easy. And they did work together, they partnership. So when they asked, or they requested from the ISO 2008 Technical Committee 176, the main clauses, main effect, the main requirement, the main language, and the main culture in developing 29001, and the ISO 9001 Technical Committee. So it was these two people, API and the ISO organization. Sorry, I skipped one. So ISO 2000 sector specific. This is a very important term. Sector means it's targeting oil, gas, and petrochemical, even coal. Coal is included. And so, if you ask me today the main question, what is the main difference? I'm applying ISO 9001 quality management system, but what is the main difference between ISO 9001 and ISO 29001? I'll tell you that the main reason is the 29001 has additional requirement, and they go into 3 main points. The first one, emphasizing defect prevention. How do you do that? In 29001, non-conformity means bad product or bad service. Means not fulfilling requirement of our organization. How can you fix it up? It's easy. When you do non-conformity, we call it non-conformity field deficiency. We study our field operation and we try to prevent defect from occurring on the ground. The second main point difference is reduction of variation. You should study your processes, especially your field processes. Your development processes means when you are digging for oil, getting the oil up, what was the variation on the process? How did you do it in the process of getting the oil or gas out? Then in the production era, from start till end till you produce, And then after that, installation, if you want to storage, if you want to take that oil, store it, and what was the storage period, what was the quality control, what was the additive you did on it, and till you deliver it means till delivery. So this is the second point, reduction of variation. And third, I think this is common sense, waste from service provider. Study what you are getting from your service provider. Is it what we call added value service? You need to improve that service, and how can you measure? Now, the requirement has been developed separately to ensure that there are clear and auditable. That's why I think API Q1 went to us in the ISO organization, Technical Committee 176, and they asked, all right, can we use your standard? Because at the end, they wanted to develop a standard you can be audited against. This is the game of the ISO organization, Technical Committee 176. But I want to talk here about experience, and especially if you are working in the oil sector. What is the main challenge in applying TS 29001 incomparable with ISO 9001? Because we said the best practice or international practice is what the international oil companies are doing. They're applying the Chevron, the PECB, the Schlumberger. They're applying ISO TS 29001 after applying 9001. The challenge is people in this service industry do not have recognized customers. They cannot say or they cannot outline or detail in a table who are their service provider. Who do they deliver the service to, and how can they get the customer satisfied? They cannot comprehend the term customer. So when I work with the oil sector, I don't use the term customer. I use service receiver. Now, if this is the culture, what do you do? As I said, the first thing you can do is change the term of of customer into a service receiver, and you have a service provider. So you talk the language of the oil sector. The second thing is, which is a very good approach on applying 29001 in any organization, is you take your system and procedure and you talk about how can you take these generic standard and applying into your technical term. Now, this is easy. You can state this, or you can declare the statement anytime you're applying the standard. But how can you make it specific to the oil sector? I think it's easy. When you take any standard, use that standard as only a critical control point to control your current activities. And this is a smart way of making it easy and to the point. So besides changing first the culture and the language to talk about, instead of customer, service provider, and instead of talking about customer, you say service provider, service receiver. Number two, you talk about quality control point, checkpoint in all your procedure, and this is common to the oil sector. The third thing, main thing you need to do is you need to sit down and instead of saying customer, because when you go to McDonald's, you take a sandwich, you eat it, they give you a survey. Do you like the food? Yes. Was it hot? Was it good? So you are a direct customer and you can measure his satisfaction directly. You can put somebody out there to ask him how does he feel after his experience. In the oil sector, you don't have a specific customers. Usually people who buy that oil you dig up in your oil company or that gas, it's sold to what? To government. And government takes it to the international market or through a mediatory international company and sell it in the international market. So you don't see a customer, you don't see somebody who's buying the oil, you don't see the money, and you're supposed to declare that you have a customer. How does it work? It's easy. As I said, first, don't change the term customer into a service receiver or a service provider, the supplier, and the customer service receiver. Draft your supply chain from service provider till the end service receiver, the customer, and then decide who is your service provider. Drive a list, document it down, put it in a documented list, point by point. And these are the people benefiting from my service. These are the people who receive my service. And then who are your service provider? Once you can narrow down that checklist into pinpoints with details, numbers, and dialogues, you have created a complete system for the implementation of 29001. Now, easier said than done. How can I do it? How can I sit down in my office and decide who were my service receiver, my customer, and service provider, means your supplier who gave me the raw material to get the oil out or the gas out and sell it in the international market. It's easy. You can do it in a brainstorming session with your team leader, team player, and your group manager. It's a teamwork. If you don't get everybody involved in a session where they give you all the input and output, once you have done it correctly, it will work. Now, where were we? It's an efficient way, 29001, to reach excellence and assure stakeholders that you have a specific system that works for the oil, gas, and petrochemical industries. But as I said, I'm going back. Let me go forward. Sorry. An overview of ISO TS 29001. It sets a common basis for oil and gas industry quality management requirement worldwide, and I'll avoid multiple certification. We talked about this, where you can do your ISO 9001 certification first, then add on top of it the flavor of 29001, and you can have these audits pinpointed where none of these audits are repeating the activity they did in the first audit. The technical specification of implementation of ISO quality management system is the result of collaboration between the ISO organization and the API. The standard main aim is the reduction of risk. I think this is a main concern. And here we're not talking about operational risk. We're not talking about financial risk. We're talking about all the risk generated from being active. You can take a rock and put it on the top of the mountain and say, is there a risk there? It's a rock, it doesn't move. Risk comes from activity, product, services, processes, and people. Inclusion of industry-specific needs. This is very important. Now, what did they do to move from ISO 9000 to the standard ISO 29001? The answer is, what they did is they took the standard ISO 9001, they added to it something called functional controls, operational controls, flow charting, and process flow-up. So they can talk the language of the oil sector. Compliance with statutory and regulatory requirements. This is a main reason for succeeding in applying ISO 29001. Most of the organizations that had major catastrophes, I'm talking about, remember I gave you the case of the Union Carbide, the PECB, oil shell, all these international organizations who had what we call major accidents. Actually, they're not accidents, but major catastrophes had at one time during that catastrophe broke some element of the law, and it was a very clear case. It was a clear-cut case where they broke down some of these laws, and it's very important that you have to stipulate your compliance with the law. And you have to increase confidence in supplier, product, and service. Oil and gas players, mainly manufacturer of oil industry equipment and material, service provider, contractors and consultants, purchasers of equipment, materials, and service, can enhance their client satisfaction by applying this standard. Come on, when you say oil, gas, petrochemical standard 29001, it doesn't mean you have to apply it only to the people who are digging for oil and gas, or who are taking upstream material and developing into petrochemical product downstream, giving me polypropylene, polyethylene, and ethylene glycol. No. It means everybody in the supply chain. The people who sell you the equipment for oil can be certified for the standard. The people who are designing your equipment can get certified for the standard. The people who are supplying you with raw material can be certified for the standard. So everybody in that supply chain, and this is a very clear cut. What it means if you get certified for it, it's time you sit down with all your service provider and recommend. We don't want to say push, but recommend them to go and apply the standard and get certified against it. Now, the best practice, it will be a common base for quality management system requirement worldwide very soon, so helping to reduce and eliminate multiple assessment with additional benefit of reduction disruption. Now, there are no clear what we call statistics from the ISO organization. There was a small landmark study that was done that tells us that there is around 1 million certificate of ISO 9001 worldwide, which means that it's a very popular standard. But I read some statistic that there is around maybe 7,000, 8,000 certificates of 29001. But that was unofficial, so I cannot answer to it. But this system is going to become what we call a worldwide system to reduce, eliminate multiple assessment with additional benefit of reduction or disruption of business, associated paperwork and cost. Competitively, it's a competitive edge, increasing organization within the supply chain who need certification against the standard to ensure or to secure or assure their contracts, maybe minimize their what we call insurance coverages, minimize their insurance bodies coverage, maybe assure themselves in front of the government, the EPA, the environmental protection agencies, and protection in front of all these people that are associated with risk. We're talking about the environmental legislation in your country and the fire brigade or the fire safety legislation in your country. Continual improvement. And this is derived from ISO 50001 energy management system. We don't use the term continuous. Continuous means we have to do it around the clock, all over the 24 hours. Continual means we do it according to the needs of the business and my capability. Development of the quality management system to provide continual improvement, emphasizing defect prevention and reduction and variation of waste in the supply chain. Greater quality assurance among employees also. Benefit of ISO 29001. I was giving you small secrets and pinpoints, but we can apply 29001 by changing, as I said, the terms customer to service receiver and the provider, the supplier, into service provider, and how we deal with them. And what we can do is take that, what we call, step further by telling you that the best thing you can do after stating your customer, stating your service provider, stating who is your internal customer inside the chain, because 80% of the activity inside any oil, gas, petrochemical industry goes towards satisfying internal customer, not an external one. We provide our service to another person who takes that service into another person who at the end take that oil and deliver it to the government for the government to sell it out, or deliver it to a national company where that national company will suck the oil and sell it out, or give it to a third-party international supplier who will suck that oil, put it on a ship, and sell it out in the international market. This is the common practice worldwide. So when you drive your procedure for 29001, drive your procedure based on having two main things: oil sector control charts and oil sector critical control points. Use these critical control points as a main check on practices. Tell your people to use a common, what we call, checklist. This is the benefit: enhance brand reputation, manage risk, eliminate operation, reduce it, and improve it. And the goal is to defect prevention, reduction of variation, and reduction of variation. Now, what is the goal? As I said, oil industry, equipment, material, organization, and so on. Sorry. Now, conformance. All right, I'm coming to the end. Very good. I'm coming to the end. We've been talking very technical terms, so now we should slow down, make it easy to the user so you can get the picture, and we're going to close down very soon. Conformance of ISO 29001. An organization demonstrated meets the requirement. You can do it as a self-declaration. This is a very important call. Don't have to do it as a third party. You can declare yourself, you're applying 29,000. You can do something called second party audit by a supplier or a customer, or achieve third party certification. Okay? We talked about this extensively. This is the standard, this is the requirement from clause 1 to clause 8.5, which is, I think, the most important one, which is 8.5, improvement. And you see these normative reference, quality management system, general requirement, management responsibility, commitment, quality policy. And we're writing supplemental here means you have done this is in ISO 9001. It's only a repetition, all right? All these supplemental means you have done it in ISO 9000, and these are all what we call a repetition of what you have done in ISO 9001. But the standard starts with quality management system, talks about management commitment, clause 5. Clause 6 talks about running resources efficiently. 7 talks about your operation, planning for productization, and clause 8 talks about monitoring, measurement, and improvement, and information flow. And the information flow between customer measurement, analysis, and improvement here is the internal audit a customer can do on you, or the satisfaction, what we call methodology of collecting data on the customer. This is the final thing. Who would benefit? Upstream, oil and gas, exploration, okay? Oil and gas production, offshore and onshore. Midstream, oil and gas storage, transport people, pipeline, gas, storage, LNG chain. Downstream, crude oil refining. Come on, I'm talking about marketing service, secondary storage, LPG, aviation, lubricants, road transport, and so on. Aviation can also use it because they use the same standard. So I'm talking about organizations like Kuwait Aviation Fueling Companies. While upstream, we're talking about companies like KSE, which is a big organization. We're talking about the Aramco, we're talking about the SABIC, we're talking about the ADNOC, and so on. Midstream, we can be talking about organizations like in the petrochemical industries, or most petrochemical industry are in the downstream. Okay? Now, assemble ISO 9001. This is how you can do it. Have the management committed to it. How can you do it? When you have a swimming pool and you want that management to be committed to swimming, what do? You let management jump in first inside the water. Now have a team with the knowledge, define the scope of certification, establish a project, a milestone, and this is your milestone, and this is what you should be asking yourself before you implement it, what the company is doing, how we are doing it, how can we do it better, who is my service provider, who is my service receiver, who is my internal customer, who is my external customer, what are my processes. If you answer these 5 questions on a piece of paper, I think you will have a complete system. That's it. This is it. This is how you can do it. This is the time scale, the milestone, the initial review, the strategic planning, the system development, the implementation, and you can do it in a milestone, in a quarter, till you reach the management review. Common non-conformities to be addressed. Common discrepancies from drawings, especially the oil sector. I have learned from auditing a lot of gathering center and a lot of oil, what we call production units, especially with the international oil companies. I see a lot of drawings that are outdated. Not only outdated, rats have been attacking these drawings. Where you go to drawings 20 years old, and you can only have half the pages, and half of the other pages are either torn or either are placed or not there. Material non-conformity. A lot of supply, especially in the oil sector, since they supply material in tonnage. He dumps on you all the material, and you receive 25 tons, and you find out after 1 month, 2 months, you do not have a proper raw material. Workmanship standard, this is crucial, baby. This is it. This is what we are facing. You ask for 3 safety officers, they work on you, and after 1 year, you find that the certificate is not valid. Delay in schedule, documentation, and defect liability. And I think defect liability or product liability is a main source of defects in today's world. You are producing something, are you liable for it? Can you defend it? Did you put the right protection measures around it to make sure that you are producing the right oil and you are selling it to the right customer? Evaluating process, I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the last slide. So this is the good news today. This is the last slide. The bad news is I delayed your lunch, but the good news is this is the last slide, evaluating process within the QMS. Ask the following question in relation to every process being evaluated. Is the process identified to every process being evaluated? Are the responsibilities assigned? Are procedures implemented and maintained? Are records maintained to show conformity? Is the process effective in achieving required results? And is the process efficient? Answers and questions. Now we'll go to my friend now, Mr. Mustafa, and I want to thank him for sponsoring this webinar, and he's been great, and we only can say thank you, Mustafa.
Yes, thank you, Tawfik, very much for the webinar. We have a question from Mr. Wolfgang Mar, who is our trainer and partner also in Switzerland, and he have a question. If the oil and gas businesses is so risky, shouldn't they embrace ISO 22301, the global standard for business continuity? It supports businesses as a management system like the ISO 9001.
That's an excellent question. The answer, yes, sir. It is one of the main, what we call, standard for managing what we call your business continuity and risk. But I'm saying, remember, in life, as a kid, you go to school, you earn your high school degree, and then you get your bachelor degree, then master degree, and if you continue, you get your PhD. In my alphabet, A, B, C, D, to me, first you can apply ISO 9000, quality management system, then you can go to 29001, which talks about controlling your activity as an oil sector, and then to be running your car with perfection. Means professional, you apply your business continuity standard. And in this way, if you do it in this sequence, you have put a methodology to minimizing risk and controlling your business continuity as a whole. I think it should work in that standard. But this is only a recommendation. Yes, Mustafa. I hope I answered your question. Mustafa, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, Tawfik, sorry, I have muted myself. So, yes, Wolfgang is saying thank you very much for the answer.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So he have another question. Yeah. Can the ISO 29001 technical specification be used standalone, or would it be much more effective when used on top of a management system such as ISO 9001?
Beautiful question. It can be used as a standalone standard. Yes, the answer is yes. And the best management practice worldwide, please use it on top of ISO 9001. This is the best recommendation.
Yes, thank you very much. We have another question from Indrapal. He's saying how the oil spill disaster happened in recent past were addressed by the standard and efficiently and effectively.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a very technical question. I want to take it to Nigel Croft and withdraw from answering it. I think it is being addressed. I'll give you two answers. One answer, by the way, Mustafa, can we hear the voice of what we call the questioner asking us the question, or we can't?
Yes, of course, we can unmute them. If someone is interested, he can just raise the hand. I will unmute, and the questions can be raised.
I can't hear their question. They're going through you. Is there an option I can use where I can hear their voices right away?
Yes, of course, we can use an option to unmute everyone who is interested, can raise questions, and I will unmute.
Can we do it now?
Yes.
Please. Okay.
Let me answer. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. The answer to the question is yes, you can do it, but putting ISO 9001 on top of it is a better management practice. This is what all organizations around the world are doing about minimizing the risk. The Nigel Croft did that in ISO 9001 issue year 2015. Now there's a new standard. It's going to be possibly, I heard that this date might shift. 1st of September 2015, ISO 9001. And instead of talking about correction, they're talking about risk management. And in the risk management, they're addressing problems or spillages problem and how we can effectively manage them. Now, two standards are running into what we call addressing these two main issues, the spillages, the main catastrophes. The ISO 9001 2015, the new standard, and ISO 14001 environmental management system is also under review, so probably going to be issued 2015 again, and they're addressing this specific, what we call spillages or national catastrophes that's stopping organizations around the world from having all these happen when you have a proper quality management system. So yes, they are moving in the right direction. We have now clauses specific in the environment and 9000, the new standard that addresses these needs, and your need to specifically control these activities and make sure it doesn't happen at all. Now 29000, because it runs on top of ISO 9001, which is the new standard 2015, so it's going to be compulsory for you to have these additional control for hazards. Now how they are doing it, the answer is simple. You cannot have anymore a risk register or an aspect register and say, all right, I'm controlling my business, go home. A lot of people in the oil industry are facing what we call the all tree syndrome. The all tree syndrome means big checklist that adds no value. Instead of having 29, I saw an organization in Saudi Arabia where they had a risk assessment, what we call checklist of 79 items, where they only know about 5 of them. Don't put items you cannot control. Add value to your system. Put the risk that you can control and you are aware of. Thank you. Yes, Mustafa?
Yes, thank you very much, Tawfik. For the moment, we don't have any other questions, but anyone who is interested more, they can write us an email to either PECB or to you directly, and we will be answering them accordingly. Okay, so thank you very much, Tawfik, for the webinar.